Hi, everybody. Welcome to Behaviorally's Global Leadership Series. My name is Ian Donahue, and joined with me today is Monica Corbett, Senior Director of Consumer Insights and Strategy at the Hain Celestial Group. Today, we'll be speaking about how important the need is for insights professionals like yourself to develop strong partnerships with external research partners and what factors you use to determine an effective partner, including your top 3 requirements. So thank you so much, Monica. How are you today?
I'm super, Ian. Thanks so much for inviting me in to do this. This is really fun.
Thank you so much for partaking. So can you tell me a little bit about your role at Hain?
Sure. In fact, I just celebrated my 3rd year anniversary, so time really does fly.
Congratulations.
And thank you. And 3 years ago, I was recruited into Hain to help them establish a consumer-first mindset and a real consumer learning muscle so that they could make better decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And I have been working at Hain Celestial. Many people don't know Hain Celestial. It's a house of brands, and we participate or compete in categories that span the whole grocery store, including foods, beverages, and personal care products that are brands that are comprised of brands that are natural or organic brands that are intended to inspire people to live a healthier life.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. And so you say it's a whole portfolio of brands, lots of categories that you're working in. How do you manage everything? I mean, there must be so much to learn and uncover and help these brands to be successful in the market.
Well, I mean, part of the way in which we do it is by choosing really super partners, and we're going to talk about that. But I thought maybe I'd step back and talk a little bit about when I first came into Hain. And at that point, Hain worked in a very siloed approach. There was no consistency in the ways in which people, if they did any consumer research, the ways in which people were doing consumer research. So it was typically a one-off type of study, predominantly a tactical study, right? So the first thing I did was did a listening tour, as many insights people will do, and really listened to what were the needs of my clients and identified what were the common themes across all the different categories that we were competing in, the brands that we were competing in, what were the hypotheses that they were trying to learn, and identified the common themes across the portfolio. And with that in mind, I went about and put a framework together around what do we know, what do we need to go learn, and what would be the approach by which I would want to learn, and who are the partners I'd want to learn with. And it was really important for me that the partners I chose were going to help me get closer to the consumer in a very quick, efficient way that still delivered quality output and really demonstrated subject matter expertise in the areas that I was trying to understand better. So that was very, very important. And then where appropriate, I could scale those approaches across the organization so that we had a consistent way to go learn around innovation or do consumer understanding or do product testing. So it helped also establish a common language across the organization as well.
Mm-hmm. So what I'm hearing you say is that you approached it with a very kind of tactical, structured way. It seems like you had a map of basically, the different types of learnings that you wanted to gather, linked with your suppliers that you felt were good or strong in kind of answering that and kind of creating that kind of consistent approach that you could measure and manage and see, make sure it fits your needs, but also be able to interpret those results or those learnings, regardless of whether you're in a single, a specific category or another category or things like that. Was that?
That's right. That is right.
Yeah, it sounds like a very smart smart approach. So as you were going through that process, I mean, how were you able to determine who fits within each of those segments of learning that you're looking for? When we kind of talk about partners, are you talking about, internal partners, external partners, and what type of process that went through in your mind?
It's a really good question. And some of the ways in which I did it was through the Green Book.
Uh-huh.
So never underestimate the power of the Green Book. And
we'll leave an ad down here for Green Book.
And I also reached out to a lot of people in the biz that I trust, and just talked to them about some of the challenges that I was facing in establishing a function. So it was, and people are always so willing to help and talk a little bit about, what worked, what didn't work for them. And of course, I've had relationships for many years with, whether it was specific suppliers or people from those suppliers with whom I've worked.
Right. And that's really interesting, right? Because you've been in the business for a while, only, 3 years at Hain, but, you've been in the industry for much longer. And you talk about bringing in those historical partners and things. What kept you loyal to those partners to, bring along in the new role, right? You're coming in kind of, a fresh face in the organization, and you need to make, not a name for yourself, but establish a trust for your expertise. What about those partners that you decided to bring along?
So first, it's so fun to have a blank slate. And it's so scary, right? Because to your point, people are expecting to be able to trust whom I'm bringing, but I was working again across many, many different businesses with people who've also had their depth of Rolodex people, right? In their Rolodex, I should say, across the CPG world. So it was interesting to approach with new people, so to speak, new partners. So the first thing I would say is there was trust. And I will say for the people that I've had a relationship with, because I have brought in, and I'm always open to learning around new suppliers and their methodologies. But for the people that I had brought in that I had worked with previously, the first thing is trust. And the second thing I would say is these are partners who have a breadth of exposure to different businesses and brands and industries that perhaps we don't have exposure to, who can help sort of bring that outside perspective in and provide analogies where, they've run across similar types of issues and how they approached these business challenges. And I think that's always helpful, right? Because then there's you sort of establish trust with the broader team. I think the other thing is just jumping in with me, because particularly at that point, I was one person, and I was really very specific that anybody that I was working with was going to have to help me, that it wasn't just about a set of tables and here you go. Mm-hmm. It was about, asking me whether or not I had data I could share from existing studies that might be helpful. It was perhaps partnering with people who had done some work like PRS behaviorally at Hain. Could they go back and answer the questions that needed to be answered from other studies? I think also what's important is I'm working with people who are all about speed. I think we all are, right? Like right. Life at the speed of business. So being able to take the data and make compelling, clear stories out of the data, very concise stories out of the data, is something that is really important for the partners that I choose. I continue to work with my partners around that because the speed gets speedier.
Yes.
So that right? So that it becomes C-suite ready from the get-go, as opposed to making it C-suite ready, towards the end, not needing to hold hands. I would say that the other way in which I chose the partners that I chose was that they were going to challenge me in my way of thinking, right? Just because of the way in which I had thought about it didn't necessarily mean that was the right way. And that's always what we want, right? Because especially when you're like in it, you sort of forget to raise your head. So we've talked about that, bringing the outside in, but also like, wow, Monica, have you thought about this, or have you thought about that? If we recruit this type of sample, this is what we could answer, we can answer. So I think I really hope that my partners will, and I expect my partners to challenge me. And then, as you know, Ian, I really hope my partners will dig in with me after work is done. And it's not just a one and done, right? Like, I've called you back quite often around studies that we've done. Can we run different tables? This is what's happening in the marketplace. This is how I looked at the data. Am I looking at it right? Because things didn't quite turn out as we had expected. And, there's no business to be had on your end, right? And you
Right.
dig in with me. And I just really, really appreciate that. I really do. And I think the way that works best too is just staying in touch over time.
Yep.
Even if it's not at the same company, it's a different company, just understanding like, where am I in the space, and how are things going? Anything, you've offered. Doesn't matter if there's a job out of this, like, what's going on? Can I be your trusted partner you need to bounce things off of? I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. And there are a handful of people who are sort of like my kitchen table board of trustees that I have on speed email.
Yeah, Monica, I mean, thank you for joining today, because, I wanted to invite you because we've always had a really very collaborative working relationship together. You've always kind of, I don't want to use the word challenged in it because it kind of has some negative connotations, but I think we have very robust conversations just for those points that you brought up, right? Is, how can you kind of get me, what I need, bring in the outside perspective, pull it together in kind of, this very, easily understandable, something that, you could share with the C-suite, and feel free to bring in kind of that external or that outside perspective from all the other projects that you've done, all the other categories that you've worked with. Am I thinking about the data in the right way? Am I analyzing in the right way? Am I even scoping out and setting up the study in the right way? And we have great conversations about that. And then, we do the study together, and we get some, we come together in terms of, what is our recommendations, next steps, things like that. And then I love that you come back with feedback, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months down the road, how is that initiative faring? I think it's so important to help us as researchers to understand, as external partners, to understand your business, how it's evolving, how our input is helping to shape, where things might be, I don't want to say different than expected, but just to, get that constant feedback, right? To see, where's it hitting? What can we learn from this? And take that into, future partnerships together and future initiatives together. So, thank you for just being one of those insights professionals out there that really is just a pleasure to work with, and really engaging in that type of insights profession. I mean, sometimes we geek out about, insights and learnings and things like that. And I love that you come, not just saying, Ian, you just have to answer, problem X for me, very, very tight. Obviously, we're going to focus on that, but how does that impact your business on a broader scale? And you always tell us about the business and what's going on in the market and what's your strategy and how this research is going to help enhance your strategic decision making.
Yeah, it's quite fun, isn't it?
It absolutely is. It's much more engaging than just, hey, can you test this packaging? Or, I just want to validate this, one design before I launch, and things like that. Sometimes briefs are that simple, right?
Yes,
But I
exactly.
love
That's
when
true.
it falls in this, wider umbrella of this is our business strategy and help us to progress through this.
Yeah, yeah. Another thing, Ian, that I really appreciate about my partners is when they think of me if there's something new that they're working on, a new approach, you have new tools that you want to check out and you want to test. I am always one of those who's very willing, usually anyway, to jump in and test with you. I love, love, love doing that. And um, even though Hain is a smaller company and everything, sometimes it's almost safer to do it that way too, right? It's under the radar. But no, I really do. I love not just the fact that you're stretching my thinking, but you're also stretching my thinking on an initiative, but you're stretching my thinking about our craft. And that is so, so important.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I love, that receptivity to it because, we're always learning new things and insights, right? There's, different ways of doing things. There's new tools, and things, and there's tools that aren't even created yet. But that's why I really appreciate these type of collaborative partnerships because it helps me as a external partner to understand kind of what are your business needs, what are the things that you're challenged with, what do you need to learn more, right? And what kind of tools do we have in our suite, what kind of tools should we think about, we could co-innovate on, and things like that. Try them out, see if they work, see if they get us a new learning that might not be possible with the existing suite of tools or the way that they're being asked, the questions, the surveys, how they're being conducted, whatever it is. And that together we can kind of, grow with our partnership. We can continually to grow and become better researchers and get those market and shopper and consumer insights that we need to make strategic decisions for, the brands that you support. So
Yeah, yeah. Co-creation goes both ways, right?
yes, absolutely. And I mean, a researcher just kind of, creating something just for themselves. I mean, like an agency creating something for themselves does no good, right? It has to be something that's beneficial to our research partners. So I love that you share so much about your business with us and your needs, and it's been a great partnership. So
What about from
Monica,
your, let me
yeah,
ask you
go
a
ahead.
question, Ian, from your
Sure.
end. Like, so I heard that, thank you.
Mhm.
But what would make for better partnerships from your perspective? How could we be better partners? We being the client side, be better partners with the partner side,
Oh,
agency
that's a
side.
great question. That's a great question. I think, some of it touches on the things that you already talked about, right? Sharing that holistic view of this is my business, this is the strategy that we're pursuing. And therefore, it's not just Ian, do this methodology with this scope and this kind of thing. It's basically, hey, going in broad, what's our business challenge? What are our objectives? And then what can you do to help us answer the insights that we need to meet those business objectives, right? Then we kind of get ourselves outside of this very kind of narrow focus of, oh, I just need to test this one thing and give Monica an answer, right? It's let's look at all the research learnings. Let's see what kind of prior research you have. Let's look about it in a more holistic way so that we can tailor something that really helps to answer your needs, and put together a program. Maybe it's not just going to be one study, right? Like, maybe it's a program. Maybe it's just, hey, let's review the existing data and see what we know, right? And then what don't we know? And how are we going to capture that data? Is it, qualitative, quantitative? Is it going to be, something? Is there, some type of, consumer co-creation that needs to go, whatever it is. So I think that's really important from a partnership is, you know, not just sending kind of an email, kind of, give me this and, how much it costs and how much. Sometimes, I appreciate that the time crunch, right? We need to do everything faster and faster. So sometimes it's unavoidable, right? Like, can you just give me this? I'm going into a meeting tomorrow afternoon. I just need to know like what this would entail. But a lot of times it's great to have a brief, whether it's written or verbal, and really kind of talk about the business challenge. I think that's a big one for me. I think the other one is basically, like you said, continuing the conversation post research, right? I mean, that always is a big revitalizer for me, right? Is to hear and say, oh, remember that packaging or that study that we did last year in that market? Well, this is kind of how it came out. We saw some stuff here going on positive. We saw some stuff here going on negative. It doesn't matter, right? It's, how is the research being used? How is it being executed? Does it match with their expectations? Where, if it doesn't, where is there something that, might be a gap or whatever, right? We can talk about it and we can kind of learn and learn and learn. I think, a lot of things in a lot of talk in the insights industry has been kind of, learn as you go kind of stuff. It's not confined to one study, right? It's, take the insights that you can, act on it, and then get some more insights, and then act on it and get some more insights, and fine tune that strategy so that it works to the best that it can.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be calling you up shortly then to talk to you about the recent work we did.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. So, Monica, I've taken up so much of your time, but I really appreciate you speaking with me today at our Global Leadership Series. And I look forward to continued partnership with you. It's been a fantastic experience.
It was my pleasure, Ian. Hey, go Owls.
All right, go Owls. Yeah.
Thank you, Monica. See you later. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.